Hey everybody, welcome to Bill Sky, the database guy. And what we're going to do now that you know a little bit about what a database is, let's get our development environment set up for Windows. There'll be a parallel video after this one on how to set it up for Linux, which I think is the easiest. And what I'm assuming though in this video, at the beginning of this video, is that you've already installed Visual Studio development environment by Microsoft. Now I have version 2022 installed. 2017, 2019 are fine. I do have a video in my assembly playlist, my assembly language playlist, on how to set up your Visual Studio on Windows. I will put a link to that in the description of this video. If you haven't got Visual Studio installed yet, go back, watch that video, get Visual Studio installed. Visual Studio Code, I have not even tried to get this to work on Visual Studio Code because the libraries that come with MySQL database C connector require Visual Studio. So a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of compatibility issues. When you become a developer, if you're not already a developer and you don't know this already, which you probably do if you are a developer, one of the biggest problems with developers on using other third-party applications like MySQL, connectors, Java, all that, is making sure all the drivers are working correctly, make sure all the libraries and object files work correctly. So we're just going to stick with what works. Let's get started and getting Windows set up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my browser here, and I will put all of these commands, I will put all of these URLs, everything in the description. And the resolution on my computer is a little funky, so there we go. So let's go to https www.mysql.com/downloads. So the first thing we want to do is we want to download the MySQL server and client. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and go to the community GPL downloads. And I'm going to go and click on the MySQL installer for Windows. I'm going to pick the most recent version, Microsoft Windows, and I'm going to download the MySQL MSI installer. Now there's two different ones. One is a online installer, another one is a local installer. I like to download the largest. I'm going to click on no thanks to start my download, and this way I don't have to be online to install it. My internet might be down, something, whatever. I always like to have those files and keep them. So we're going to go ahead and let that download. While that's downloading, I'm going to go into my downloads folder. It's done downloading now. And let's start the installation. So I'm just going to double click on the installer. All right, so I'm going to click on full and then next. It's going to install all these parts. I'm going to click execute. And what it's going to go through is it's going to go through and install the server, the workbench, the client, the shell, the router, the documentation, as well as some examples and examples. And the ones that we're really going to use the most are the server and the workbench. So go ahead and let that finish installing. All right, once the install is done, it just downloaded all of the files. It still needs to configure them. So let's just press next a couple of times. I'm just going to leave everything default because we're not setting up any kind of a special server. So just going to make everything next. You click everything next. So go ahead and put in your password. For a test machine or test installation, I just like to put in the word password. Everything is default, and then execute. And what it's doing now is it's going into the server, it's configuring it, it's setting everything up, it's setting up the configuration files, starts the server, sets up security, so it goes through all that. Then when it's done, click finish. Then you've got a little bit of more configuration to do. You click next, you leave everything alone, click finish, click next. Then it asks you about connecting to the server, so let's go ahead and put the password that you did a couple of screens ago. Click the check button, and then click next. And then click execute. It checks it and makes sure you're logged in okay. It runs some scripts, then click finish, then click next. You can start the MySQL Workbench at startup after the setup is done, or you can bring up the shell. I'm going to turn both of those off and click Finish. All right, so that's installing the server and client. It's completely GUI enabled, no issues. Now, there is something that you're going to have to do to be able to run SQL commands from the terminal or the command line. You are going to have to set up a system path. Now, this is actually quite important, setting this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my File Explorer on Windows. I'm going to right-click on this PC, and I'm going to click on Properties. Then I'm going to click on Advanced System Settings. Then I'm going to click on Environment Variables, and I'm going to double-click on Path. I'm going to click now I'm going to click New, but let me copy and paste, and again I will put this out on the description of this video. Click New, and then paste your server location, the binary file, the bin directory of your server location. That's where by default it was installed. I think I want to get rid of the double. I'm not sure why I have double backslashes in there. So let's get rid of those. You probably don't. You don't want to put double backslashes. Press Enter. Click OK. Click OK. Whoops. Wrong OK. OK. And then you can close your system settings. All right. Now, let's go ahead and download a test database that we can use. So I'm going to bring up my browser. And it's a really nice test database. And no, it's not going to cause any trouble. So I'm going to put that URL in the comments as well. And that's actually kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. So, oh, I pasted in the wrong one. So let's see if we can paste in the correct one. There it is. Click the code button and click Download Zip. It's going to go ahead and download it. Now we have to we have to import that database design and all the data into our database, but that's good because we have to test out the database installation anyway, the MySQL installation. So I'm going to go ahead and close my browser. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to search. I'm going to type command, and I'm going to go to the command prompt. Now from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type mysql-user root-p. And it should come up with a password prompt. I'm going to type password, and now we're logged into MySQL server. I'm going to type show databases with a semicolon at the end, and we should see those 5 or 6 database listed. That means that your server's up and running. So I'm going to type exit. Now something else that we can use to test is I'm going to go down to search. I'm going to type work, the MySQL Workbench. So I'm going to open that up, and this is a graphical user interface into the MySQL. I'm going to click on local instance. It's going to ask me for my password. I'm going to go up here to, well, it's a little bit different. Down here, schemas, and we can see our different databases. Now, the word schema is analogous with database when it comes to MySQL. So, I mean, there are some intricacies to that word, but that's what we've got. So let's go ahead and close. Now, you can go in there and look at data, but let's not do that for right now. I'm going to close that window. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my downloads folder. And in the downloads folder is this test database master.zip. Now, instead of me actually doing the unzip in the command line, I'm going to open up my downloads folder. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say extract all. I'm going to press extract. Let it go ahead and extract all those files. It then opens up the folder. We don't want to go into that folder on the GUI. We're on the command line, so I'm going to type dir. There it is, test db master. I'm going to type change directory, test db master. There it is. I have to do it again, unfortunately. And there is all of our files for that test database. So now I'm going to type mysql-user root-p-t employees.sql. Ask me for my SQL password. And, oh, what happened? Oh, I typed in root 6. I didn't type root. There we go. So now what it's doing is it's importing all of those data definitions, importing all that data. It's basically recovering the employee's database from a previous backup, which is one of the benefits. Okay, now while that's doing that, I'm going to bring up my browser again. And from my browser, I'm going to type https www.mysql. Oh, I got an M there. mysql.com downloads. And from there, I'm going to go all the way down here to the bottom to the MySQL community downloads. I'm going to go to connector C++. I'm going to make sure Microsoft Windows is selected. And I want to pick this Windows x86 MSI installer. I don't want these other ones, so I'm just going to download that one. No thanks, just start my download. And it downloads the connector. Now I'm going to leave my browser open because we need to download a couple more things. And now it looks like my employees or my test database. So I'm going to type workbench again. Oop. Click on the local instance, my password, click on schemas, and there's our new employees database. So I'm going to expand that. I'm going to look at tables. I'm going to click on employees, right click and say select rows, limit 1000, and it actually has data. Pretty cool. So the database actually has data in it. And that limit 1000 means it's only going to show the first 1000. If I only want to see the first 10, I say limit 10. This is the SQL query to actually do the query of the database. And I'm going to execute it, and you only see the first 10. So pretty neat. So we've already done some database work. I mean, we're not really sure what it all is, but we've done it. Okay, so let's go back to the connector. So I'm going to go back to the Windows user. In this case, that's my ID. I'm going to go to Downloads, and I'm going to double-click on the MySQL C++ connector or connector C++. Go ahead and install that. Agree. Complete. Install. And just go ahead and let that finish the install. It'll just take a couple seconds. Okay, now, so you should all be set up with your C++. But now we need to install the Python connector. Now the Python connector is a little bit more involved because you first of all have to have Python installed. So I'm going to type Python download, and you want to go to python.org. Now if you don't have Python installed, let's install it. So I'm going to click on download Python 311.5. It downloads it. And just go ahead and install it. Now I might already have it installed on this computer. I believe I do, but let's see what happens when I double click on it. So when you install Python, you want to make sure that you click on this add python.exe to the path. That is so important. Please click on that. If you don't, it's going to be a nightmare for you. And then just click install now and say yes. So let the Python install. You got to make sure that that's done first. Now while that's happening, I'm going to go back down here to the search. I'm going to type CMD again to bring up the command prompt. Oh, nope, I don't want to do that. I want the setup to finish, because what it's going to do is, and for those of you who don't know, the path is the operating system search path. It's the folders where executable programs can be found. The operating system uses that environment variable. It uses the variable path within the operating system to say where's the user installing all of their applications. And so you've got to have that in the path. It's the same on Linux, it's the same on a Mac. It's hidden from you as a general user, but as a developer you have to understand what that is. So that's why we clicked on that add the executable to the path. And we'll go ahead and just let that finish. It's all done. I'm going to click close. Now I'm going to go back to search, type command, and I'm going to type Python, and there we are. We're in Python 3.11.5. Now, if I hadn't clicked that add it to the path, I would have had to have gone to the directory. Oh, what it was, it's a nightmare. Make sure you click that. All right, so I'm going to quit, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type Python-m pip install --upgrade pip. Now what that is, pip is Python installation program, and so what that's going to do is that's going to upgrade pip to the most latest version, and it looks like it was already set up because I just downloaded it. So now I'm going to type Python-m pip install MySQL. So I'm going to do 2 of these. You're going to see some installation. It downloads some stuff. This is a lot like on Linux. So now I'm going to type the same thing, MySQL-connector-Python. And it's going to install a few things. All right, great. Looks good. Now, let's install Java and the Java connector. Now, you've got to install Java. If you don't know if you have installed, just bring up the command prompt, type java-version. And if it says it doesn't know what it is, well, we've got to install Java. So I'm going to go back over to here, and I'm going to type, where do I want to type here? Oh, I'm sorry, a little senior moment there. Java download. And I actually don't want to go to java.com. I want to go to the Oracle. So I'm going to click on Java downloads. And I actually like Java 17. So I'm going to click on Java 17. I'm going to go to Windows, and I'm going to select the x64 installer. And that's going to install the JDK 17. You don't want to just install the JRE, you want to install the JDK. So now I'm going to go back to my downloads folder. I really hope you guys watch the Linux installation, because we were done in 8 minutes. That's why Linux is just the developer's dream. So let's go ahead and install Java. Yeah, it takes forever to get anything done in Windows. Normally what developers will do is, a lot of developers, they will develop in Java, or not Java, they'll develop in Linux, and then when they need to, then they'll migrate over to Windows. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and take all the defaults, let the Java install. Now the thing about Java, the Java installation, is it doesn't modify your path. It doesn't add the Java executable to your path. So once we close that, I'm going to have to bring up my File Explorer one more time. Right click on this PC, type Properties. Go to Advanced System Properties, click on Environment Variables. I'm going to go up to the path and double click on the path. Actually, before we do that, let's click on the, well, we haven't installed the connector yet. So let's go ahead and leave this, and we're going to get back to that in just a second. Okay, I'm a little bit off my order here. So now we want to install the connector J. We want to install the Java connector. That's the API to MySQL from C and C++ to Java to the MySQL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hps dev.mysql.com downloads connector J. I'm going to select the operating system. I'm going to select on platform independent. Okay. And then I'm going to download the, which one do I want to do? I want to do the zip file. So I'm going to do the second one because it's Windows. No thanks, just start my download. Now I believe this is our last download. We've already got Python set up. We just have to get Java set up. All right, so now we're going to go to downloads. We're going to double click on the MySQL, or we're going to right click on it and say extract all. Extract. Let that extract it. For those of you who don't know what a zip file is, it is a compression of multiple files and folders and directories into a single file to make it easy to copy to other locations. Some of you may not have known that. So it is a way to take a whole bunch of files and turn them into one file. And what I'm now doing is I'm extracting all those files. Okay, and it brings up this window. I'm going to go into there. Okay, looks good, looks good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I have two windows open. I'm going to go to this PC and I'm going to double click on my C and I'm going to drag MySQL connector J 8.1 to my C drive. And it moved it, which is fine. Okay, so now we've got the Java connector installed on our C drive. Now I'm going to right click on this PC, go to properties. Got a couple of things to do here. Advanced system settings, environment variables. And what we're going to do now is we're going to click on the new on the top half of this. And the name of the variable, now this is a system variable that the operating system is going to use. So we're going to call this class path, all in uppercase. And then we're going to take the folder where we dragged that to. And I'd kind of like to make that visible to me. So that is C:\/ MySQL connector J 8.1.0 \, and I believe that is going to be MySQL connector J 8.1.0.jar. So what we're doing is we're saying go on the C drive where we put our connector J, and there's a jar file. Now for those of you who don't know what a jar file is, it is a compressed set of Java classes, program code, like a zip file, and that's what your program will use to connect to your MySQL database. And I don't think we need to put in the path for the Java, but let's see. So I click OK on all these. Now I'm going to bring up command prompt, type Java version. Yep. So Java did added the path, or added its directory to the system path. That's awesome. Java C. All right, great. So we're all set up. We have our Windows set up for C and C++, Python, and Java. You can go now into your download folder and you can delete all that stuff that we downloaded. I like to keep all that stuff, but you know, what the heck. Just for the sake of saving disk space, I'm just going to delete all that. And then empty my trash can. Okay, so we've got our Windows set up. I suggest you look at the Linux one. You might want to convert to Linux because life is going to be a lot easier on you. Again, this video assumed that you had Visual Studio 2022 installed. Hope you get that installed. See you at the next video.